the weekend, so back out in my shed. I'm getting ready to do the welding on the front part of the car at least. I've got the panels shaped pretty much how I want them. I still need to trim these, obviously. That one might need a little bit of a tweak just to pull it round, but they fit reasonably well. It's a bit grubby. So I've been practicing my welding again. I've been using this new flux, and I think I like this stuff better than the other stuff. It's much more watery, I guess, when it melts. When it's up to temperature, you see it go clear and run. It starts working along the panel a lot better. But I've just been doing practice welds and trying different things, trying the different rods. I've got another brand of 4324 rod that works exactly the same as the first one, which is what you'd expect. I also bought some welding clamps with little pads, so I can clamp everything together, including this long reach one. I need to be careful with these. This flux gets everywhere and it's very acidic and it'll just ruin everything. This is why my steel plate is all rusty. Excuse me. Still have the remnants of a cold I had a few weeks ago. So I've been practicing my welds, trying different things. I still cannot get decent penetration on these welds. No matter what I do, I can't get it to go all the way through without melting all the way through. So the only thing I've found that works for me is welding from both sides. If I do that, it works fine. So I do a pass from one side from the outside, and then I do another pass from the inside and kind of blend them together. I've also tried using a bigger tip on my little welder, and that kind of worked. You can see you get a much wider melted zone, but it's much harder. It's too hot, and I ended up just blowing holes and things. So what I've found is working the best is using a slightly longer flame and using much more of a circular motion when I'm welding to give a bigger heat zone. If I try to do it just moving straight along, what I find is I get very lumpy welds, and the edges aren't blended in properly. It hasn't all fused together. But if I use more of a circular motion and a hotter flame, I can get much better welds. And that's what I did on this one, and I started grinding it down. Fortunately, I blew a hole right at the end, but I only ground it down enough to just to see if the weld was going to hold. But I think that's the way to do it. So weld from both sides, grind the tops off the welds, and then planish it out. You can see this is the one with the bigger tip, and it was just too much heat. Same here, I didn't bother even doing the back of this. It's just a lot lumpier. And this one I think was trying to just do a straight pass. This one was more of that circular technique, and you can see that works a lot better. I didn't bother hammering any of these. This one I think I went over a couple of times, and yeah, it didn't really work. And again, this is one I ground down at the start. This was more like this one, but it took a ton of grinding to get it flat, and I think it might be cracking in the middle. But I think I've almost got the technique now. I've found these Rolock discs work really well for knocking down the tops of the welds, or the angle grinder. I think most of these are kind of worn out a bit now, but I could try the 80 grit as well. But these flap discs seem to work well, and they don't clog up as much. So that's my practicing, and unfortunately I'm almost out of acetylene again, so I may just get these done, hopefully. We'll see. And then there's going to be a lot of making panels and shaping at the back to get that. So let's try and get the front done though. Literally just finished my first actual weld on the car. You can probably hear it cooling down. It's sort of making crackling noises. You can see it's a little bit lumpy. I think when I go through from the other side, I did forget to remove that masking tape, so that all burned off. But you can see I haven't got decent penetration on the other side. So when I go back and do the inside, that'll completely fuse that weld and it should come out pretty nice. But I don't think I had enough heat in here, because that's why you can see how it hasn't fused to the sides. But I'm pretty sure I'm actually out of acetylene. Yeah, it's almost on zero. This is how I avoid blowing out the corners. I clamp a piece of aluminium behind it. And because I don't get decent penetration, that doesn't actually end up sticking to the weld, but it acts as a bit of a heatsink and a backing plate. So it kind of welds through. So now when I weld it from the other side, because there's a decent amount of metal there, it won't blow out, hopefully. So I may go over and I'll do the inside pass. I should just have enough gas. And then what I need to do is take this outside and you pour boiling water over it to get rid of all of this flux, because it's corrosive. And then I think I'll be done for the day, because I won't have any more gas, and I'll have to clean all my tools, the clamps, anything I've used anywhere near that. So you can see these I was using before to cut some of the aluminium when I was practicing before, and they've gone rusty. There's surface rust on them. These I'm not so worried about. These are really cheap and nasty and effectively disposable, but I want to keep these ones nice. So I've got a bucket of water there. I'll fill that up with hot water and I'll give these a scrub and then soak them down in WD-40 or something like that so they don't rust, because this stuff is really, really nasty. When I'm welding, I do wear a mask just so I'm not breathing in any of the fumes. But I'll flip this over and see if I've got just enough gas to do the other side. Just had enough gas to weld the middle. Took me quite a while to clean up that burnt off tape. I had to get that all spotlessly clean, of course, before I could weld it. I just have the kettle going with to boil some water, but I'm going to let this cool down before I use the boiling water to get rid of the flux. It basically dissolves the flux, but I don't want to thermally shock it, so I'll just let it cool down by itself for a bit, and then I will take it outside, and I use my stainless steel brush, pour the boiling water over it and give it a good scrub, and that gets rid of all that flux. Managed not to blow out the corners, and you can see I got a bit better fusion on this side. I think because there's more metal there and there's already some heat in it, it makes it a bit easier. But I think it should be a solid weld. I'm not going to grind it or start hammering it until I've done the other side, which means I have to wait till I get more gas, because I don't want to put all the work into that. If I screw up this, then I have to restart from scratch. So I'll wait until I've got that other panel on there, and then I'll look at starting to smooth it out. Of course, this is all now annealed, so this is super soft. It's not too hard to hammer it back into shape. There's not too much distortion in it. There's a little bit, but yeah, planishing that out won't be a big deal. Just got in before it started raining. I poured the boiling water on the panel, scrubbed off all the flux, and for good measure I went over the whole thing with cold water from the hose and a Scotch-Brite pad. Sometimes the flux will drip, so you want to clean everything. But there's a weld. It's a bit lumpy. Definitely lumpy on the top. But it should clean up fine. There's going to be an awful lot of grinding, of course, but hopefully that should have penetrated all the way through. I'm pretty sure it will have. I will clamp this back on the frame and see if it still fits. Yeah, the rain's arrived, but that's fitting on there pretty nicely. Of course, it all gets wrapped around, so it'll pull in where it needs to. And really, it only has to touch around the edges. So I'm fairly pleased with that. I think that's come out okay. I think it'll grind down okay. And I think it'll smooth out okay. It is a bit lumpy. Like I say, I'm out of acetylene now, so that's all the welding for the weekend. There's nowhere open for me to get gas. But I think what I'll do is I will trim this panel so it's ready to go. You can see it's a bit of a low spot there. That's okay. I have trimmed the other side to fit. There's a bit of a gap there at the moment just because of the way it's clamped. When this is welded, those two edges will come together, and then if I need to, I can stretch it back out again once it's been welded. But those do line up. I basically laid one on top of the other and then sort of marked the line. So that should be fine when I weld that. And once I've got that other side done, like I say, then I'll look at actually flattening these out. But I think they'll come out okay. It's more or less the right shape, I think. Because I've run out of welding gas, can't continue with that until later in the week when I get some more. You really go through the acetylene quickly, and the two bottles of course aren't equal. You get far more oxygen than you get acetylene. You can see this is still full, but the acetylene is almost empty. I'm actually trying to remember, I think it was the oxygen I ran out of before, so that's a new bottle and this is still the old one. So it didn't run out quite as fast as I thought it had, which is good. So I'll go get more acetylene during the week. I usually go and collect that in the MG because technically you're not supposed to transport it in a closed vehicle. So I can't collect it in the Land Rover. So I always take the MG with the top down, so effectively it's in an open vehicle, so there's no danger from fumes. So that's good. I thought I'd gone through that acetylene really quickly, but no, it's the oxygen I just replaced. So more acetylene. I fixed my diesel heater. That seems to be working. It did take a few attempts to get it to start properly, and I think that was just that the fuel system needed purging. That's been done now. I'm just going to leave it running for a long time. Just to let it heat up and work properly. I went out today and bought decent hose clamps for it. So these are decent quality stainless steel, what are they? Trident clamps. These are the ones that come with it, and these are cheap and nasty and flimsy, and you try to do them up very tightly and they just open up. So I've just replaced all of these. It's tempting to keep them because they do kind of still work, but no, it's better just to throw them in the bin. So put this in with my other hoses and hose clamps. And the other thing I got today was a 40 grit sanding disc. I'm going to use that to take off most of the chunkiness of the weld. It's been overnight, weld's still holding. It's a good sign. Be very surprised if it hadn't, but I think that'll grind down and that'll all hammer out nicely. And like I said, this side, when you press the edges together, they do line up properly. So I'll weld all of that when I've got more gas. The other thing I need to look at doing is the wiring loom on the car. There isn't too much. I think it's 4 wires to the back, a couple of wires to the front for the lamps, not much else. I'm using a 2-position Lucas switch, so that will enable the fuel pump on the first position, and then the most outward position will disconnect the earth from the magneto so that that can run. So because it's magneto ignition, to stop the engine you short out the ignition, basically short out the low tension side on the magneto, and that's what stops the engine. If this cable comes undone, the engine will keep running. Of course, I've got other ways to shut it off. You could, if you shut off the fuel pump, it'll only run until the fuel in the float bolts runs out, or else you have to open the bonnet and short it out. And I think I should probably send off the headlamp reflectors to have them resilvered. There's a company up in Auckland who can do that. I think it's about $300 per lamp, something like that, but they're going to be absolutely essential to get the car on the road, so I need to get that done. And I guess while I'm waiting for welding gas, I could start making some of the panels at the back. I still need to decide exactly where I'm going to split them. I'm wondering if I can make this in one piece. That's quite a long panel. But then I could make all of this in one, put the weld in here somewhere for the tail. So do effectively this section and then this section as 2 pieces and then weld them together. It'll be something like that. And I'm guessing around the boot opening it'll just fold over, the boot lid will come down. I need to check exactly where I'm going to do that and how I'm going to do that, if I'll do a wide edge like I did on the Austin 7. So on the Austin 7 you can see the lid, this actually wires up and the lid wires down, so it provides a lip so water can't get in there. You may need to do something like that. This is, you can see where the welds were on this. I'm not sure how strong they are. I don't know if I got decent penetration. You can see it's a bit spotty there, but it has all held together. So, you know, obviously that was good enough. Hopefully I can do a better job on this one, but I think again it'll be good enough. Not a day for getting anything done on the car, really. I've got distracted onto other things, so just to keep myself busy, I've been making this thing. I'll show what that's for when it's finished. I just need to do another coat of varnish on it. And I did go to the tip shop this morning and got these for $5. It's a big stack of really old, really grubby 78s, I guess. This one's broken. I think quite a few of them are broken. I'm sure they're all scratched to bits. There's no sleeves or anything. The reason I got these is because after the success and the fun I had building my little Meccano Riley, I've been buying some more Meccano. So I don't desperately buy up all of it. I sort of look and see what stuff nobody else wants and tend to bid on that. I'll put in one bid. If I don't get it, I don't worry about it. But I've won 2 lots recently, decent amounts as well. So I've got more Meccano coming, and I've been trying to think what should I build with my Meccano. And I've been watching a lot of model railway videos lately. Sam's Trains. I don't think he's straining, I'm not sure. But they're just really interesting, really relaxing. And I was into model railways when I was a kid, and I've actually got a model railway I need to finish inside my dining table in the house. And I thought, well, I could build another small layout, but then I looked at the prices, and I don't know what's happened in the years since I've last looked at it, but the prices of everything for model railways is now just absolutely ridiculous. You know, locomotives are in New Zealand $500 or $600 for a lot of them. Just insane. I was looking at, you know, I could build a little Inglenook puzzle layout, and even that you were looking at $60 for the points, I think. Just so expensive. So I do have a locomotive and rolling stock and things like that all packed away. So I'll leave all of that for my normal railway. And then I thought, well, I could build a Meccano one. I am on the lookout for one of the clockwork Hornby ones. They're pretty common as well. They come up all the time. I'm just waiting for a nice, decent one. And, you know, I thought I've got my wall here. I could run a little train around it or something. But a model locomotive would be quite cool. There were quite a few of those over the years that they had plans for. But the other thing I thought of, and this is something I did as a kid with my Lego, was make a record player. I definitely did it with Lego Technic back in the day. I've also, quite a few years ago now, I did a little YouTube film for a steampunk record player, which was a little steam engine I built driving a record player playing a punk record. Almost no one got the joke. And then I got a copyright strike for it, because even though the record was completely mangled by this record player, it must have recognized it enough that I got a copyright strike for using a Sex Pistols song. But anyway, so I thought, well, I've got that Meccano clockwork motor. Maybe I can build a Meccano gramophone. And these have been sitting at the tip shop for weeks and weeks and weeks now. Nobody wanted them. They're probably going to get scrapped. I thought, $5 helps out the charity there. And, you know, maybe there'll be something here that will actually play with a really good cleanup. We'll see. But there must be, oh goodness knows how many of them there are. How many's there? 100, 150 maybe. So for $5, if I get a couple of good ones that will work on a Meccano gramophone, which is probably going to sound terrible, that's not a bad deal. So that's really all I've done. I'll go get more gas in the weekend. I didn't try and grind this down now because I don't want to make a mess in here. Grinding is horrible, filthy work. The dust and the bits and pieces go everywhere. Those marks there, that's actually where the flux has been. So once I've welded this piece on, I'll take the whole thing outside to grind it down. When I worked at Weta Workshop, they had an entire room just for grinding, and it was horrible. It was filthy. The poor buggers who had to work in there, full PPE, would go in and they'd just come out covered in crap. Really, really horrible work. So I'll get more gas. I'll try welding the next one. The other thing I looked at this morning when I went out was panel pins. So I need to knock these edges round and then just pin them in place. And I need to keep reading my coach building book. I think just steel pins will be fine. I don't think you need anything special. I just want to make sure I get decent quality ones. The ones I looked at the hardware shop this morning were all kind of crappy, just cheap and nasty. So I may see where I can get some decent quality ones from, maybe like a ship merchant place. They often have good quality stuff. Probably doesn't really matter, but I think the heads on them need to be a decent size and a decent shape so that they don't just pop through the aluminium. So that's something else I need to order. But I think that's it for the weekend. Like I say, I'm going to give this another coat and we'll see what that's for in a later video.